FlipGrid account for student reflection and responses. So if you do not have an account, the first thing you're needing to do is navigate over here to sign up today. You'll choose the sign up with Google option to use your school account. The nice thing is it is completely free for educators, and using your school account ensures that you have all of those features. So when you click the sign up with Google button, it'll ask for some questions about you, your name, where you teach, the grades that you teach, and then it will take you to your first grid. Now, right now with the free account, you get unlimited grids, and then each grid has an unlimited topic number. So that's very useful for just getting all sorts of responses on all different sorts of things. For those of you that may have already had a FlipGrid account prior to August of this year, you will need to, when you log back in, reauthorize the terms and conditions because things have changed. Also, you may want to consider just creating a new grid for students this year versus whatever you used last year, because those previously created grids are password protected, and there are options so that students don't have to enter a password that we'll look at in just a moment. You have unlimited grids, so my recommendation for those of you at secondary is to have one grid for each block that you teach. For elementary, I actually recommend having a grid for the school year in which you are teaching. You don't necessarily need to break it up by content at the elementary level. For my secondary folks, it just seems like it's more useful to have kids always navigate to a certain grid. You can keep their responses and thoughts separate, just like you would have a separate Google Classroom for each block. I would do the same with a FlipGrid. Let's talk about how you create a grid. You have some new features now that you didn't have previously. So the first thing you need to do is select your grid community type. You have three options: the school email domain, the student ID list, or PLCs and public grids. For students in Hopewell, I recommend the school email domain just because our students have access to that. They can sign in with their school Google accounts, and it adds a level of protection so that only folks with the @hopewell.k12 can access that grid, which is perfect for keeping students private and safe. The other option, student ID list, you'd have to create your own list of students, and it's really not something that we need to do because we have the Google sign-in option, so that would just be more work for you. PLCs and public grids would be if you are creating a grid to work with colleagues or adults that, as it says, that are 16 years or older. So you will need to give it a name. This one will just be a sample. You'll see here, this is the code. This takes you to the entire grid. This is not just for content. You could rename it if you wanted, but I'm just going to use the default. Then your next step is to choose a grid background. I do recommend having a different one for each grid, especially if you're doing your different blocks. That way you can kind of visually keep them separate on your dashboard. So because you're doing this with your school email domain, you want to enter everything after the @ symbol. So for us, that would be the hopewell.k12.us. This means that they can only access with their school information. They can't use their personal information, which helps kind of keep it safe and limited to our students. Again, you want to always think of student privacy, and this is a way to ensure that. So now your grid is ready. You have the option to view it as a student or to share the grid. And again, I guess there are times when you would want to share the whole grid, but when students are creating work or responses, you want to take them directly to the topics. You're happy the way this is, you can again come back and edit the settings. You can allow students to download their videos after they create them. You can allow grid followers so they get email notifications. This is useful at high school who have email turned on, but for elementary this isn't really useful. Captions seem like a great idea. Unfortunately, at last check, the captioning feature was somewhat entertaining in that it would mistranslate words, and it would put certain things in the translation, in the display, that were not actually being said by students. And you'd also need to be in a very low noise environment. So I don't recommend turning that on. And then you can hit update grid. So because we chose this grid for students, it gives an introduction topic. It's a way to introduce students to FlipGrid and using it without having to create anything. It's already done for you. So you can just share this topic with students once you review some of the actions, and then it'll be a good way to introduce. Notice they've put a GIF for students to see, which are one of the many options we'll get to. So we have the topic title, the maximum amount of time, in this case leave it at 1 minute and 30 seconds, when it will be available for display. These are the questions that will be posted that students will have an option to view when they are responding to the topic. Now for this one, it's set for video moderation. You have that option, which means the default is that videos are automatically displayed on the grid, and anyone with that topic link can view the responses. By turning on video moderation, you would have to see and approve them first before they could be visible to anyone with the topic link. So you can make your topic the default is active. You can freeze it, which is where they can view videos but not record. Great if you want people to see responses, but you no longer want to accept responses, perhaps it's past the deadline. Or inactive, which means you can neither view nor record videos. Here are the launch and freeze dates, so you can set when you want it to launch, and then you can set when you want them to be done, the window for how long they have to respond to that grid, which is great if you're using this as an assignment. So this particular one has a resource. This is a GIF that students will see. And then the video features here, students are allowed to use stickers and drawings. I would, of course, caution, stickers are great, drawings mean they can draw anything. So bear that in mind. You may want to either initially have nothing or limit it to stickers. That is your choice, you know your students, but I would make that judgment. This is for decorating their selfie, so once they've created their selfie, they can add to it. Know that when stickers and drawings are on, that means they'll totally cover up their faces, so they can't see their face for some reason because they're very shy. So you can allow reactions with other series of emojis. You can turn on the video views to see how many people have viewed the video. If you'd like to allow students to respond to each other via video, then you can have that checked. I'm actually going to turn this off. And if you'd like them to be able to add a title to their video, then you would leave this turned on. For this one, we're just going to leave basic feedback and update the topic. From there, you would share this topic with your students. You can either enter the URL and then give them this flip code. If you want to share directly with your students, you could share this in Google, share this wherever you would post a link. You also have the option to share this to Google Classroom. So when I click that, so once students start recording video, you'll see a list here. And you have a couple of options. You can duplicate it, you can edit it, even add guests, which is a new feature. So adding guests to this topic lets family members or coworkers see they will only have access to this specific topic and not the rest of the grid. So you decide whether or not they can view the videos in this topic, or if you'd like them to record their own video for this topic, perhaps answer the question. Be a great way if you were looking for outside experts, wanted to get an expert interview on a quick question. This would be a great way to have someone who isn't local do a quick response to something that you're learning about. So from there, you would send them the guest code. You'll notice that is completely different from the code that the students received to respond to that grid. It is a different option so that they don't have the same rights as students would. All right, so from there, you would either copy this, create the QR code to post it at an event or send it home, and they could then use this this code in the FlipGrid app or this direct link on a computer. You can see a list of the different grids. I actually have quite a few. One was for summer school that I was a co-teacher on, which is a great option for inclusion classes or collab classes. You can actually make your co-teacher a co-teacher on your grid as well. And here's where you would add your co-pilots to your grid. So if you are a collab teacher and you want both teachers to have access to create and add topics to a grid, this is the best way to do that. You wouldn't have to have separate grids for each teacher. So to see how it would look for a student, you come over here to the flip code. That takes you to the topic for students. You will have to log in with Google. You can always click Remember Me so that it will know you. Especially if you're signed into Chrome, just click the link. And now you can see it just like the students would. You have the list of the questions that are posted for student responses. You can now make this active so that it's visible on the grid. So when students actually go and view that they will see the one active response, which to view as a student again. You can see the approved responses. Students who come to enter their video will also be able to see approved responses. So one thing to consider might be to not approve any videos until everyone has completed the work. That way their thoughts and ideas are their own. Or if students need help in the example and you haven't recorded a reflection of your own as a model of excellence, approve those videos so that they have something to look at as a frame of reference. A mixtape lets you feature student videos from any of the topics. You don't have to just pick from one topic. You don't have to share the whole topic. If you have topics from within a grid or things which would allow you to create a great resource for exhibition, if students in multiple blocks or classes have been working on a project, you could feature different reflection videos or anything that they've created to showcase what they've been doing. So of course you need a title. It will have its unique flip code, and of course that plus sign means it's a mixtape. You need to include, you don't have to, but it's optional to set a purpose. And then decide if you want users to have to enter a password to access this mixtape. So from there you click create and you just add videos. So now when you come to the mixtape, you have a response that you've added from another topic. And actually this was even from an entirely different grid. So that's very useful that from all of your classes, all of your grids, to feature those outstanding responses. The last thing we're going to highlight is the Disco library. So you can share your topics here. So maybe you did a great topic and you want other people to see that. You can add to that, but you can also use it to take what someone else has done if you think it's a great idea on something that you're looking for by audience, by topic, by goal, all sorts of choices. Find those resources and then you can just add them as an already created topic to the grid of your choice, which is great because there's no sense reinventing the wheel if someone's already come up with a great topic. So we've got some exit tickets, surveys, interview prep. There are all sorts of resources here available to use for your students to get them talking, thinking, reflecting on work, in addition to the resources that are shared in the attached documents. So now that you've had a basic introduction to a FlipGrid, how will you use it in your classroom?